how is it possible that Eddie Kenzo has been able to do this? And I was so fascinated by that. But
and I think
good music is good music,
good music
I always
is good
say.
music. I also loved Ugandan music more when I traveled, because
Yeah.
I went to the States to study production and, you know, kind of grow in my songwriting. And I'd say, I'm from Uganda. And they'd be like, oh, what Ugandan artists do you recommend us to listen to? And I'd been in
Ooh.
Uganda listening to Chris Brown. I'm like, yeah, I don't know who you should listen to. How Kadongo Kamu became Kadongo Kamu. I'm like, we're Africans, we are Baganda, we are Banyank. We tell stories. It's in our African culture to do that. But what instruments are we seeing around? How can we tell stories with a guitar? And you have Fred Masagazi. I love his music and I'm looking for it all the time, and I like those stories. And then you see Eli Wamala, and then you see Bobby Wine. Like, I love Bobby Wine's music. Bontwe, which means head in like some funny English we used to speak in primary school. So when that came out, guys were like, you know,
like what's going on?
There was once a time I saw myself as so broken by what I went through, as so damaged from what I went through, that it was just helpful to push everyone away. It's like, I feel like a grenade that's going to burst on people. Like, I'm in this journey of healing, but there's this time I need to take away, because
a lot of people don't realize that motherhood is another school of life for you. It is also another way to learn about yourself
so much
as well. It's a journey.
It's such a journey that doesn't end. And I think I also see it through my own mother, because I'm an adult and she's never stopped mothering me.
Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us for another conversation on Crystal One-on-One. Now you know where we are. We're on location at Sheraton Kampala Hotel, my favorite place in the center of Kampala City. The Easter weekend is coming up, so you know what to do. Get ready. Good Friday starts here with the Ivuga Band. Then there's Easter brunch on Sunday and a special brunch on Easter Monday. So many things happening, special offers on the rooms. Come with family. Let's have a good time. Now, today I am speaking with a recording artist. She's also a songwriter and a lawyer by profession. Now, there are a couple of other things that she is doing. I do have Izabel, the musician, or Izabel Twanjere, joining me today. Hello, Izabel.
Crystal.
How are you?
I am great.
Uh-huh.
It's so amazing to be here.
It's nice to talk to you again.
Yes.
We had a conversation on radio and now we get to sit
and now
down.
I have arrived.
You can't hide from me.
Haven't I arrived, Crystal?
Huh?
I'm here. I've arrived.
But you arrived a long time ago.
When
I saw you up on stage doing your thing, I'm like, she's arrived.
Thanks.
How's that going? Music and your professional life together.
Yeah. So it's now going really great. It's been 6 years of trying to figure it out.
Yes.
It's been 6 years of, oh, this is not how it's usually done. I don't think this is going to work. A lot of self-doubt. Maybe I should have listened to everybody else. Maybe I'm too different in how I want my path to be. But now the affirmation and the vindication and the validation and all of it working out is something that I'm starting to enjoy. And also it's necessity, because there's so many people saying, oh my goodness, like I also reached the crossroads of, should I be an artist? Should I be a creative? Should I do this other thing and be a lawyer?
When you said, should I have listened to what people said, was that especially the time when people really, you knew you wanted to record music, I know you write a lot of your own music, but people are like, hello, you want to be a lawyer?
Yeah, because you have to have this seriousness, especially right out of law school, to move. So after LLB, you're supposed to do Law Development Center. And I was like, I'm taking it off to do music. I'm traveling to do music. And guys were like, okay, that's strange. See you when we see you. And I did that and I came back and I still did LDC and I did it with a different year. Then one was like, your rhythm is lost, your trajectory is different. And I was just like, I'm just going to move the way I'm moving. And, you know, even at LDC, I'd have like exams the next day and like rehearsals the night before. And guys were like, this unserious student going to rehearsal. when we have like a criminal law exam the next day, I'm just like, but I feel ready, I feel prepped for it. You're there on time and you do the exam and you pass. So I think it's been difficult seeing the way people interpret it because I don't think it's been done before. I mean, I have heard of lawyers who are musicians who, like play the piano, play the instrumentalists,
Yes,
but
instrumentalists,
but
I
not
think.
necessarily artists or singer-songwriters or this is my life and this is my passion and I'm on stage sharing that with people actively and as actively as I am, practicing or being a lawyer. So
I think I have probably seen it with lawyers who probably didn't study and practice law here,
yes,
but
yes,
yes, elsewhere.
yes.
Yeah, but I know they try to fit you in a box. I think we're always talking about this business in Uganda and growing up where people want to put you in a box.
One size fits all.
And yet now
Yeah.
we're seeing that people can color outside the lines and there's so many boxes you can jump from
Yes.
as well.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe for a while this works,
Yes.
and then you're like, ooh, that color over there looks kind of interesting,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And to chase it, to engage in it is valid as well. And I think for me, what taught me that the most was more of the psychology and introspection of self. When you talk about the one size fits all kind of mentality, the more you look into yourself and understand your distinctiveness as an individual and the fact that your individuality is what makes society beautiful. Like if we had everyone as Crystal,
Thank you.
what would Crystal be bringing to this world? So the more you understand yourself, the more you see that distinctiveness, and the more you understand you have a duty to lean into it as opposed to the conformity and I think if we just were more self-aware,
Yeah.
we'd betray ourselves less because
Yes.
you understand. I think I have something to offer with how distinctive I feel. To not chase it, to not follow it is not right for others, not even just for myself.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
I think you nailed it. I mean, just look at Mother Nature. The array of whether it's animal life, plant life, trees,
Yes.
flowers,
Yes.
insects, human beings, whatever it is,
Yeah.
we have variety.
Yes.
So this expectation that we'll all be the same,
It's so off. I don't even know where we get it
that would
from.
be a miserable existence.
Yes,
Absolutely, because
yes.
we need artists. They
Yes.
bring joy into our life. They
Yes.
bring color
Yes.
into our lives. So
Yes.
take me back. Do your friends call you Izzy? Does anyone call you Izzy, or is it always Isabel?
I think it's mostly Izabel. I'm one of those people who also didn't have a nickname. I have a family nickname that my brother gave me because he couldn't say Izabel. So you hear people calling me Ibo. Those are people I've probably grown up with or they
Ibo.
know me. Yeah, Ibo. He just, like Izabel sounded like Ibo to him. So yeah, apart from that, people really just call me Izabel.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the time.
So
Yeah.
growing up, where was that for you?
Growing up was here in Kampala. I am the firstborn of 4.
Ah.
And I am a daughter to a Baptist pastor. So
Okay.
from the time I was born in church, and that's where exposure to music began. That's where exposure to thinking began. I don't know if many people know that Baptists are usually the denomination that have the long sermon and the hymns and you have to
A lot of tradition.
Yes, so that kind of, I think, from an early age did not make me very afraid of the big words and the long readings and just sparked curiosity. My dad also being like a preacher and a teacher. Yeah, I was like, in primary 6 discussing church history with him and why Protestantism began with Henry and what, all those stories were fascinating to me. So I think a lot of my historical empathy began there because I also hid a lot in books. But at the same time, it was period dramas. It wasn't really like Nancy Drew and Sweet Valley High. It was more of give me Charlotte Bronte, give me Charles Dickens. Because, what Charles Dickens is saying, and when I read like a John Wesley, How Great Thou Art, I'm like seeing the same English and it's more familiar to me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where a lot of the setup for, I think, my disposition and my interests began. And also with the schools that I went to. I was in Kampala Parents and we had this amazing library and there was this compulsory subject called summary. You had to read a book and write a summary
summarize.
every week. And at first it was sort of a chore, like it was a punishment. My mom would be like, if you're not doing this well, you have to read this book, tell me the lesson. I'm like, oh, drat, like the book is so long. But by the time I was in P5 or P6, I was like, I actually like this. And then I
Yes.
became that child of, can you put the book down? Can you like not read books during lessons and so on? So I fell in love with words.
Yes.
And I think that's always been my first love. Music and the instruments and the law are really just things I've found alongside the journey of my love for words. Yeah. So
Do you still read?
I read a lot.
lot?
Yeah, I like reading a lot of philosophy stories or stories written by philosophers. I like stories that have like this great philosophical problem. Like one of my favorite is I was rereading it and posted it on Instagram, The Outsider by Albert Camus, who was an existentialist philosopher, and just the question of how weird Marceau, his protagonist, was. I mean, in the end, he was killed because his mom died and he didn't react as he should have reacted. Yes, he committed crimes, but he was just so
Yes.
different. Society was like, there must be something
There's
wrong with
something
you.
really off with you.
Yeah, so I like perspectives on stories like that.
Yeah.
I think I also love Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, like the way she tells post-colonial or like hybrid stories of like Africans in a post-colonial context or in the first world. Like Americana is is a favorite of mine because of that. So
I'm always amazed at how popular she is and how well known she is. Although people know her for her quotes, her feminist stance, and not so much about her work.
Yes,
and yet they know she's a brilliant writer, but please take the time to read her books.
And I think it means so much more contextually. I remember that row when Beyonce quoted her on Lemonade, and she had to clarify that the context of this feminist stuff I was saying was actually this. So I think it's important to always contextualize, and that's always within a work or within a speech or within the full body to understand what it means. So it's really important, but we
have many things in life. You don't just take things at face value
and run with it.
Impression.
Yeah, like an interview or a Bible verse. We do that a lot, and we run with our meaning, and yet before and after.
Well, I always say human beings, one of our most interesting flaws is the fact that we are able to twist words to whatever our agenda is, unfortunately. And we've seen it through the ages. So it's always interesting to do your own research and understand the layers.
The layers and the truth behind everything.
Something behind words. Because words are powerful, though.
So powerful. I think in my life, I have never encountered anything more powerful than words. Like through every kink and struggle and bottleneck in life, there is a lyric, there is a lesson, there is a poem, there is a book, there is a song, there's a story, there's a line from a movie to just like clarify that time and get me out of it, which is why for me words are spiritual. I think music and message and communication. It's so moving. It's so powerful. So
the challenge for many people who I'm sure you've also experienced, who grew up with a minister or a father, grew up in the church essentially, is at some point the expectation is you do gospel. I don't know how many people I've spoken to who really have almost a crisis of sorts. They're like, did you go through that as well?
You have no idea, Crystal. Like, I really, really did, to the extent that it put me at loggerheads with my family. And we come from a very enmeshed family. We're very, very close. And the opinions of others matter, not necessarily that they are followed because they say, but you really do care and value what other people in your family say because no one else knows you like they do. And when this music stuff came up, because from like end of A-level, I was so sure. I was like, Dad, Mom, I want to study music technology. I like this production stuff. I want to understand it. I want to make music. And they were like, yeah, you need to get a degree first. I'm like, okay, fair. I've gotten a
degree, then you can do what you want.
I've gotten a degree. Can I go do the music? Now this music thing is not going to work. I'm like, okay, let's talk about it because that's, the context we've grown in. It's not just a rule. A rule always has a rationale. So I'm like, okay, what's your thinking in me not going to music? Musicians, they're the drug addicts. Musicians, they're the Malayas. If, like, that's the community you're going to go into, it's going to be very difficult for you not to become like them. You're going to turn back on your family values, your Christian values. And I was like, okay, I hear that, but what if then the way forward was to combat that?
Yeah.
What if there was a way for me to affirm my values and still do my music? And the loggerheads was it's not possible. There's no one who's ever gone in there and made it out and stayed Christian. I'm like, no, but we have
It's
Christian
not
musicians.
possible, really?
It was very difficult to convince them. I think in some sense even now they're still like, she's an adult now, that's what she's doing. But
we can't.
yeah, it was just like you're leaving with a guitar, you're going to studio, and they're like, oh my goodness, we're holding our heads, we don't know. Or you have a performance, you're like, you're singing for drunkards. I'm like, no, these are people who are listening to every word I'm saying. They're silent in the performance. They're asking you questions after, and I'm like, there's spaces like this that encourage, introspective music that's both emotive, making you feel things, but also making you cognize.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the struggle was even where I didn't find those spaces, creating them, because this is my music.
Yes.
I mean, for sure, there are times I struggled, especially in university. It's a performance I went for, and at the time I used to kind of express very tomboyishly, and it's just in like jeans and a shirt and sneakers or something. And I was like, are you sure this is what you're wearing? Like, you don't have anything more revealing? And I was like, how dare you say that in this feminist
We want
age?
a tight dress with a little bit of skin.
And I was like, maybe this is all that a female artist can be. Like, this is all they expect from you. This is the perspective.
There is a lot of pressure, though, eh?
Yeah, and I was like,
Lot
but this
of
is not me.
pressure.
Like, even if I put on that dress, I'd be like tugging at it. I'd be so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's no way I could pull it off, you
Yeah.
know? So I was just like, I guess I just have to be me. Then even with the style of music I made, like it's a loud, area, and you're picking at strings very silently, and you have a guitar. And you're like, maybe I'm not meant to perform. I need to have like a more upbeat, groovy, fast-paced song that people are like snapping their fingers to. Maybe I need to sing about happier things. No, I'm so lost. I don't understand life. Like, don't sing that stuff. Like, it's going to weigh people down. So I really went through it, but I
Yeah.
think conclusively with the faith and with the difference, I think faith is just a collection of what we believe,
Yeah.
and that collection is boiled down to values, and it's about applying those values in what you do, whether as a mother, as a wife, as a lawyer, as a dancer. I really don't believe there's this thing as Christian music. Like, music inherently of itself can't be Christian. You are the embodiment of the doctrine of Christianity. So what you're saying makes it, Christian, because it's affiliated with that. So I also struggled with that box, because they're like, now you should sing only about Jesus because you are Christian. I'm like, yeah, but also Christians fall in love. So let's sing some love songs.
That's also, they also have struggles.
They're
also
humans.
have,
There's a universal human experience.
yeah, the human experience.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I leaned into and tussled out in my mind till I was like, I think this is a conclusion. I think this is what I'm going to go with. And I am a Christian, and I feel I can still sing about anything because there is a Christian perspective on everything.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, true. I mean, with a lot of these things, I think you learn time is the most important factor,
Such an ally.
especially when there's resistance.
Yes.
But it's coming from a good place.
Yes.
Sometimes time is the only thing that will be able to carry you through.
Yes.
You keep applying yourself, and then also, I guess, really finding your own voice. Because I saw something you posted a while ago. I think it was an interview. You asked about popular music.
Yes.
And your stand on being like a popular artist, and how you almost were a little suspicious. Like, once you cross over to becoming, a popular artist, what does that mean for your art? What does it mean for the way forward? What are your thoughts on that now? Because I think that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah. So I think the only empowering thing in anything is choice.
Okay.
And the only problem with sort of mainstream popular music is the way it diminishes choice, only because of the resistance against spirit. You need courage to say exactly what you think and what you want to say, when there's also a very clear voice of what people want to hear and what is
And
popular.
the pressure that you need to compromise.
Yes, so internationally, like, one of my favorite artists is Bon Iver. Justin Vernon is coming out with a new album, but he was this guy who got this fame randomly. I remember the story for his album that kind of brought him into the popular space, especially with a genre that wasn't very popular, which is like folk, singer-songwriter. He had this horrible breakup and life was like just messy. He retreated to a cabin in the woods, and like produced this album with very basic, equipment. And just like the realness and genuineness and relatability of that album propelled him to like mainstream. And I
And
remember
probably the
his,
individuality
yes, the
that
individuality, that difference in voice of like, this is so clear, I can listen to what this is. I remember when he was accepting his Grammy for Best New Artist, he's like, I don't know what part of the journey this is. I was really just doing this because I enjoy it, but this is different now. And he just had the courage to always trust where that was coming from, where he
Yeah.
got the music from, such
Yeah.
that he hasn't released an album in a while, but every album he's released is like nominated for best album. And he's been doing like this press circuit, and seeing some of his interviews where he's like, after the last album he made that also did really well, was just like, I'm so fatigued with the pressures of, oh, people expect Bon Iver to be this. They expect me to be as profound as this and as deep as this. I feel there's no space for me to be as dynamic and grow. And he just needed to take a step back to find that courage. And he was just talking about his new album and how he enjoys it. That's always been the most important thing for him. So it's not that I'm like very countercultural against like everything mainstream, and like how Chappell Roan is like, oh my goodness, the record labels don't care for us, and it's horrible. The
we're not
indies.
protesting.
Yes, no. That's not where it's coming from. It's more of
You also figuring out your own journey
Yeah.
and what your own style, your own voice is.
I think
all
that's how
about.
I've grown, because it's possible to be mainstream and still choose what you're doing. I mean, like Beyonce's done it even with the country stance. She's like, I don't need to be fit in a box of what you expect Beyonce to be. If I need to make a country album and it's as murky as who owns country. No,
Yes.
you can't own country. It's a genre.
Actually, that has really, really tested the world and tested her fans.
The discourse she's begun on it has been so beautiful. Because I'm like, yeah, if Taylor Swift made a hip hop album and she won best rap album, what would happen? What would happen? So it's the same thing of
Imagine
like,
that.
if I don't know, if like Kadongo Kamu starts being sung in English, like what are we gonna say about that? Like, is this allowed?
Ooh.
So for me, that's a more interesting dynamic, because
And those are the kind of questions that you want to explore.
because art is culture, like it's opinions of people within a culture and society about a perspective.
Yeah.
What's the tool you're using? English is just a language, yes, but it's also a reflection of culture. Does it affect how it's received? Should that be considered? Is it more about the strength of a message? Is it more about the fact that most people now speak English? All that stuff is really interesting to me. Like, I wish I could create like an artistic post-colonial course at university for like artists to study, to just think about why and how they're using the tools that they're using. Because this is history. I mean, like when we look
I
at
like that you said it out loud. Hey, the
Yeah.
universe is listening.
universities listen to, like, I really would love to do that. Because now when I look back at like Ugandan music history and Eli Wamala, for example, I know Eli Wamala because of my grandmother. And she was this very, very like Christian woman of like secular music aside. I'm like, Georgia can listen to Eli Wamala. And I would sit down and ask her, so what makes Eli Wamala different? I'm like, no, he's a storyteller. I see my life in his stories. I see things I relate to in his stories. I'm like, okay, was it contentious that he was using like guitars and sounding very urban for that time? Yeah, like that's also...
You're right, for his time, right?
And she said, no, this is what made him very, very interesting, because it's music you could dance to, it's music you could vibe to, but then like it's also music that would make you feel all these things, and you're thinking, yeah,
It had meaning.
meaning. So I'm just like, this is not the first time this is happening. So in 2025, we're having a Ugandan artist that in 2050 is going to be an Eli Wamala.
Yes.
And now if we don't think about how we're going to help the artists then looking back to understand their artistic and cultural identity, then we're not helping them. Like, we're planning to get lost. They're going to find whatever they find there, and we're going to be like, how am I Ugandan and how am I an artist, and how do I help my society with what I make? Like, yes, I want to be an entertainer, but what's the history of entertainment in Uganda, like
Yes,
in
yes.
culture? And then you have like this great message, this great powerful stuff that's lost to time because we weren't asking those questions. So
True.
that's kind of like my passion.
A lot of artists who have been able to hold on to, I guess, their own unique style, and
Yes.
it's almost, I've heard them say that you need to find your tribe.
Yes.
You need to find your tribe.
Yes.
Have you found yours?
I think
How is that journey for you?
I think I'm still finding it.
Mm.
I have this weird feeling that my tribe doesn't exist yet. No, sincerely. It's happened in history.
Oh, you haven't met
before.
them yet?
No, they're going to be born. Maybe they'll understand
I mean,
later.
look at Will I Am, right? And
Yes.
his stories, his music, no one understood him for like 11 years?
Yes.
Until Black Eyed
Much
Peas
later.
happened, and then... Mhm.
So I think maybe my audience is still there, but in being very vocal about the why of my music, sometimes that gets people, especially because I write specifically about life experience.
Yeah.
The songs I write about mental health, I've gotten a lot of feedback, or people who listen to my music or read the stories about my music because they relate with
Yeah.
some of those experiences. A lot of people struggling with faith. I did have a faith crisis at some point, and I wrote a lot about that. They also reach out about, like, this song helped me maybe tussle or understand that it's okay to struggle with understanding the nature of God in like a very rational world. Like, is God good? Then why are bad things happening? And it's okay to ask those questions. And the bigger the doubt, you know, once you get the answer, like the more affirming the faith, the more solid the ground you stand on feels.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think in terms of audience, that's been it. Also, people who appreciate story. Enjoy my music, but I think with every project comes a new audience.
Yes,
So it's
yes,
kind
that
of like,
too, right?
we appreciate like Wuyo Izabel, the Wuyo with Kenneth Mugabe.
Yes.
And there's people who are like, we appreciate the Little Grown Up Child's album. And people are like, what is Little Grown Up Child? I was like, that's my first album, and like people know like that album word for word, and they know the story, and they followed everything. And so it's also fulfilling to me to just like receive a DM of like, oh my goodness, this song, and I'm just like, I also released that song sometime, by the way. I'm glad it's
So
working.
you forget some of your music. Oh,
You
it's just,
release.
anyway, I guess when you have a catalog and you're constantly creating, you're like, oh, I remember, who did I interview, and I remember there was a request for one particular song, and it was like their first song. They had performed it over and over again, and they were just like, God, this song again, and I was like, we still love it.
But you still love it. And oh, that's also been a journey for me. Like, there's this one song I did with Natty Nathan. I will curate a performance and be like, we're in this season. Because, you know, like artists like building worlds and living in them. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is the world we're in for this project. And guys are like, Mungato. I'm like, guys, can we release this song? I'm like, Mungato, again. Thank you for the
Hey,
support.
thank you for the love.
But
So uni is when, because you said end of high school,
Yeah.
A levels, you were
Yes.
like telling
I
your family.
really knew I wanted to do music.
Yes, yes. So uni is when you started.
Yeah, so that's when, you know, you have like a bit more autonomy to like go for rehearsals, to, you know, get your own performances. You don't have curfew necessarily because you're at the hostel or whatever. And that's when I really started, trying to get into the artistic world, because I think also took some time for me to think of myself as an artist. And something I also talk about in my journey. Like, for me, it was just another way of being. The way someone journals and writes their poems, the way I wrote my songs. But like, to get out of like, no, I'm going to present myself as an artist who curates these thoughts in albums and whatnot, didn't really happen until 2016.
Okay.
With my first EP. And I was so lost, I didn't know how to, you know, distribute or to release a project. And, you know, you're just like, guys, I went to studio and I did this song, and that's what it's about. And somehow it takes off. You're like, should have prepared better. I probably should have done some more research.
Yeah.
Something, but that's kind of where the journey began. And still, as you said, I needed more time to find myself, because the opportunities would come. And I'm like, okay, so if I say yes to this, what does it mean? Like, if I perform at this place, what does it mean? If I collaborate with this person, what does it mean? And for me, when I'm very unsure, I just kind of struck by paralysis of like, I don't know. I just know that I write, and I write what makes sense to me. And I've moved to the stage of somehow now recording it and putting it out there. But
What is your creative process like?
I think it always begins with something in my mind, something I'm feeling,
Mm.
and then like this overwhelming need to find some sort of catharsis. Like I need the universe to say in some way, yeah, we get this with you, or it's out now, or it's been spoken out loud, so now the weight of it is less. So that feeling will take me to like an instrument, sit down at like the piano or to pick up my guitar, and it's probably like a melody still encompassing that feeling, then trying to find the words that express that feeling, and then structure it into a song. So sometimes it's not necessarily that it should always be a song. Sometimes it's just maybe 4 lines that just fit that for me, but I'm just chasing that feeling that's like a huge, oh, I feel better now. Or like, I
Okay.
feel that's what I was feeling and I've managed to say it.
And you've managed to get it out.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a chorus, I've written songs for years, I've written songs in 30 minutes. Sometimes I'm like, I need this to be an album. Sometimes you write the song and you still, you don't get it. I'm like, maybe I need to variate how I'm saying this. So it's the song, but there's also like a blog post, but there's also like a story. I like experimenting with portraiture. So sometimes I'll sit on like a portrait and kind of try and express that feeling as well. I'm just chasing that release, I think.
Okay.
So that's my creative process, which is why I think the growth into marketing, that's something I'm still working on, because for me the goal is saying it, but now I'm trying to learn how to communicate that and communicate it relatably in a way that still allows me to keep the integrity of it. I don't have to change the message or the sound or the style necessarily. It can still be mine, but it can also be someone else's.
All right.
So
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. So if you out there, you can help me, please help me. I'll shoot my shot. Because Bambi, I don't know how to release this next album. I'm sitting on it like, same results are coming out. Yeah, so.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we can look forward to that coming together.
Yes. Fingers crossed.
So in all this, we're talking about your journey as an artist, a
Yes.
recording artist and a writer. But you said you took a year off and then
Yes.
you went back, did LDC.
Yes.
And then after that,
After that, I had to now throw myself into the legal world, because in my lesson about law, which is also like a crisis I got in like third year, because I thought it was just like, yeah, it's this degree you get, and like third year I was like, no, this law thing, you have to keep on learning to get better at it. So after law school, you need to do LDC, you need to practice, you need to do a master's, you keep learning, you keep reading. I was just like,
it will never end.
it's a trap, I didn't know it was a trap. And I remember going to my mother, I'm like, this trap ends now. I'm leaving. I'm like, I know I want to do law school. It's third year. I mean, I want to do music. I'm leaving. And she's like, okay, even if what you're saying is valid, it really doesn't make sense to start somewhere and stop. It's like swimming more than half the river and then turning back. Just get to the other side. So that's how I finished. But by the time I went to LDC, and I was this very countercultural person against the law, I'm like, our systems are dead, and Uganda can do better. And I was like, how about you become the change you want to see? I'd never really asked myself that question. So I was like, even LDC, it's just taking us to be soldiers, scrum work. You can be a lawyer without LDC. But I was so pleasantly surprised when LDC was so useful to me. It was so beautiful to me, because all the stuff I'd been studying was like, oh, this is why. So this is how you use this civil procedure. Okay. So now this is the right expressed in this law. Now it makes sense. And it was so useful to me that I started finding this passion for the law as a tool.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so if this is the law, let's go out there, start learning what it takes to work as a lawyer. And of course, you begin with farms, you understand farm culture, you understand the generally accepted trajectory of like, it's going to be 10 years, grinding away, and then...
Sometimes it's even 15.
Yes, and then...
Before you can start to specialize
or get some good money, or get this of like, yes, we recognize you as the lawyer that can help with this or is good at this. But then there's also the shock of like being a woman. I'm just like, that has never impeded me from getting to the places I wanted to be, or from saying what I needed to say. And here I was in law firms, and it was this vibe of like, talk slower, talk more softly.
Because you're a woman.
Because I'm a woman, and I'm just like, is this? Because each time we are faced with that kind of, I guess, anti-feminism, there's just this visceral reaction of like, there's something backward in you. But like, to just recognize it isn't enough. You have to empathize with the culture of the men. They were raised and they saw their mothers and sisters in these
That
spaces.
way, yeah.
Why should they be bosses and think of you differently? So I think for me, it started becoming, I just need to show value. Like,
Okay.
if I can get the job done, then it's going to incentivize you to like overlook whatever impediments my age
Yeah.
or my gender do. But
Almost like a wait your turn kind of thing.
yes. So yeah, I'm this person who really believes in proactivity. Don't wait to be told to do something. If you see something can be done, just do it. Not necessarily to shine, but because it's a job, you need it to be done. And to get more stuff out of the way enables you to do that. So that went well in some places. That didn't
And
go
not
so well in others.
others.
Yeah, but eventually I think for me was this how exactly am I using my law? It wasn't even necessarily to just tie it to music. I have to find a way the law makes sense with music because I'm a musician. I think even if I loved something was very different from music, I was just chasing where is fulfillment in my profession right now. And so that chased me into specializing. But some people are like, you're too young to specialize. You still need the basis of so many other things, and there's so much you don't know.
And that's so different here because I find, at least, especially in the US, from what I've heard,
Yes.
just a few years in, that's when you specialize.
You start
And then
specializing.
for the next 20 years, you're in
doing just
whatever that space is.
Yeah. So that's a feedback I'd get. But I was thinking, especially with how, because the law is something that's applied to humans, right? That's why we come up with these rules to govern ourselves. That's the law essentially. But then if humans are a thing that change with time, our fashion changes, our language changes, even our anatomy changes. I mean, the Neanderthals look different, the Homo sapien looks different. Why should the law stay static? So I was drawn to these things that grow with humans.
Okay.
Land law will always be land law, like, but like intellectual property is how do we think about stuff that comes from our heads? We'll forever be creative. We'll forever be innovators. How do we think about protecting that? And now the age has changed to, from the basics of copyright, trademark, to industrial, creations and protections, to domains and websites, to AI now, to all these very fast moving things. And that's so interesting to me. I like challenges. So to wake up and find this conundrum of how do I express the right for Crystal to have this appreciation and validation for something she's come up with, and also earn economically for it, from it, like that's the solution. And it's never been done before. Like I can create a new way of doing that today based on what Crystal needs today, based on where she is today. So that's kind of what drew me to IP. And that's what I started chasing. So eventually I found my space in the startup sector with tech.
Okay. So you tried the firms and
I was just like, I'll come back to the firms maybe later,
Yeah.
but there was just more appreciation for proactivity and learning. There's such a knowledge need in, I think, firms, and more of, say, a capacity need in the spaces that I found. It's like, are you able to teach yourself? Are you curious enough to do what it takes to learn this? Maybe you don't know this now. Maybe you don't know what we'll need tomorrow.
when we were chatting earlier, you were saying one of the challenges is sometimes, especially young people, it's like, I didn't learn that. I don't know how to do it.
I don't know how to do it.
But hello.
You need to find a solution.
Do
for
the
it.
research, resources, and all of that, and then you
Exactly.
feel so good when you figure it
When
out.
you figure it out, that sense of achievement and just, I think, the confidence, because a byproduct of our system is very sure about how good I am till I have like a title to go with it. Like I am senior this, or I'm a partner at this, or I've won these cases.
Yes.
But by the time the normal lawyer has a shot at like winning a case that like matters,
Mm.
yeah, you started graying, you know?
Mm.
And it's difficult, but there's these small ways to build confidence in your profession, to teach yourself that you have what it takes to put your mind to something and achieve it, to learn how to deal with failure as well. I think
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of space to learn from failure, yet it's part of any trajectory in life.
Yes.
To learn and to teach others. There's also importance of mentorship. There's learning through teaching, and sometimes there's not enough space for that in a traditional trajectory, but just like working with a team, you need to learn something you never thought you'd be able to learn. Like in my last job, I was learning about sales. Legal pitching. Someone will say, it's not my job. For me, give me the contract. For me, give me that. But like, because you understand your team,
Yeah.
like if they need to learn legal stuff, I'm going to teach them the legal stuff. But we need to get this job done. If I need to learn the sales stuff, I'm going to learn the sales stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's what's going to help me get the job done. And especially working with tech, you have to understand the tech. I have no background in coding or software engineering, but you sit down with the engineers and you're like, so API is what? So now there's a thing called that. And then it does what? Then it connects like this. And then you're drafting a contract. You're like, because I understand this background,
Yes, you
I
must
can draft
understand.
a better contract as opposed to, I just need a template. Guys, this was needs to happen. Or you are negotiating it and the client is like, we're not very comfortable with this technical specificity. You're like, I don't know what that is. But because you do, you're like, okay, what would you prefer? I'm like, do we have any problem with that? No, that's fine. And the contract is signed as opposed to spending 3 months negotiating it and so on. So I think there's a lot that needs to change with perspective. But at the same time, what I've also learned is you have to choose your own path. There's no guarantee that it's going to work.
Yeah.
Or it's going to work as fast as you need it to. But there's that sense of duty to being yourself. And I'm happy that there is opportunities for me to be who I believe I am and to work the way I believe is helpful.
Yeah.
And still do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a blessing.
It is.
That's a blessing.
It is.
Especially now that, you said you've actually taken a break from the 9 to 5. And I was saying, welcome to the world of consultants. Because sometimes I always find that, well, maybe it's people are different, but sometimes I feel like when you are in this space, you work even harder.
Yes.
And you push yourself even harder.
Yes.
Because, sometimes the work comes, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you're incredibly busy, but you're constantly learning, in like different things right now.
Yes.
So that's what you're doing. Since when?
Since about end of January, beginning of February.
End of January. Okay.
Yeah, so I think the first shock to me was like, my day can be my own like this again. Of like, I can decide, no, let's get up at 6 today. Oh no, let's get up at 8. I feel a bit tired. Or let's begin with a meeting. No, let's begin with journaling. Oh no, let's go on a run this morning. And there's so many aspects of wellness and work-life balance that I'd missed out because I was so drummed into the routine.
Yes.
That it's like I've been asleep, it's just feeling this greatness and clarity of mind and thought, and like self-awareness. This is where I am because I could take a morning to do like this, or I usually take like about 3 hours to do this because of the clarity I have.
Yes.
This is taken shorter. Or
but we're different. There's some people who really like the safety and security of the 9 to 5.
I think for me, I like changing it up. I need routine, yes, but a more flexible routine because I'm such a routine person as well. There are things I will do every day. Every season, I am a person who's like, as soon as I wake up, what's on my calendar? Like, what
so
am I
you
doing
already
this week?
have your own.
Yes. So there is routine. It's not like, how do we feel today? No. Sometimes that's works against me. But to give yourself the opportunity to lean into where you're thriving at a time, I think is the opportunity flexibility gives me. And then another thing that's really hard to do with a 9 to 5, because the priority is just getting the job done, is learning. So now I have time to take like online courses, or like, okay, this marketing thing, let's learn it. And then, you do something about marketing, but then it's bleeding into business challenges. When someone says, I'm a business owner and I need help with contracts. And in working, I also want to present my brand to be the serious, organized, dependable brand. I'm like, there's some nexus between marketing and that. So I think my worlds are more blended in, being the lawyer, the mother, the artist, and just like the very introspective person. I need time to read. I need time to write. I need time to ask myself questions. I need time to embody those lessons and feel like I'm one with the universe in that sense. So I think that's giving me the opportunity to do that. Maybe in 6 months, who knows, I'll be like, now this stuff is too hard. I need like a 9 to 5 again. But I think that's the beauty of it, just a choice.
But that is life, though, eh?
Yes,
There are
yes.
seasons for everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a little boy.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is he?
He's amazing. He's in this Y phase. And
Oh, the
he's
why.
teaching me, Mommy, let's go bathe. Why? Be like, yeah, I have to justify it to him, but it's also amazing that he's persuadable. Can be like, we need to do this. That makes sense. Let's go and bathe. I'm like, oh, some maturity in this child. You know,
Yeah,
it's
thought that
interesting.
goes into things.
Yeah. Or he can ask, why is the sky blue? And I'm like, why is the sky blue? Indeed, like, it could be purple, it could be red, but it's blue.
Thank you.
So
I like those questions because it really pushed me to be creative as well. And said, let me get back to you on this.
Yes, and now like he's loving stories. So lately his favorite is Moana. And he's like, Mommy, why are there no mountains? Because Maui is in Tafiti is in a mountain. Like, how do I explain to this child that it's a story? Or like, you know, it's probably like Samoa, Kampala, we have hills, but it's amazing to see how he's learning to interpret life like from around him, from the stories. He's falling in love with music as well. That's something I like. Or like when he said, Mommy, I want to watch Lion King. I'm like, yes, Disney, like we can share this Disney nostalgia now. So it's amazing. But at the same time, there's also, you know, this individuation that's happening of like, how far can I test Mommy? I'm like, I know I'm supposed to bathe, but no. So it's also interesting.
You see it already? You already see it?
Yeah. Be like, what is the solution
Being a
now?
mom is special,
Gentle
man.
parenting or Migo? Because for us, there was one language, but you know, just like 1, 2, 3, So it's a journey. Yeah. But I also feel it's really fulfilling because he's my friend. Like, I can play with him. Time passes when I'm with him. It's not like, okay, sometimes yes, it is like stressful, but it's more of a joy.
Yeah.
It's something so fulfilling, and motherhood is something that caught me so off guard, like in how good it is in that sense. Yeah. So I'm thankful for him.
Caught you off guard.
Yeah.
Okay, how was your family at the time?
They were like, what? The child is pregnant? Yeah, so it was more of those stories. As I told you, I had like a crisis of faith at that time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's my time to venture into just choosing what I want to do. Like, I've always accepted this Christian stuff, but what if you guys are also wrong, you know? Like, so I went and wilded, and in the process of wilding, I was given this miracle. And at that time, it was a very confusing time.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because, like, to get pregnant as a Christian is anathema. I really wasn't identifying as a Christian at that time. It was more of like, I feel like a child, giving birth to a child.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything about life. I have all these questions. How am I supposed to guide this child? I was like, I don't even understand, like, this biology. Like, yeah, I'm like, he's home for a while, but doesn't, like, will he like me? Will I like him? Like,
oh my gosh,
I had all these
that is a question. I think
And-
most people don't even think about that. They're like, my child is my child. But
and
will your
I'm,
child like
checking
you?
this- I was just like, what if like I traumatize him? Like, what if like giving birth to him is like the worst thing he's going to ever
One of my
ask?
fears.
Why did you give birth to me? I did not choose to come here, and you gave birth to me. So
You brought me into this
mix. This mix. Why? So for me, those were my questions, and it was also a really difficult time, health-wise, mentally. I was just like, I don't think
It was a challenging pregnancy?
it was, but then at that same time, with all the stuff was happening, I think I was having like an young adult crisis. That's when I was diagnosed with bipolar 2. I was like, what is this bipolar 2 stuff? So you're taking this medication, and like the psychiatrist and the doctor are sharing you, like, because you're taking this medication while you're pregnant, your child might be irritable when he comes out because he's going to go through some sort of withdrawal from it.
Right, yes.
I was just like, no, see, the boy has not chosen these things, and this is what he's going through. Am I going to be stable enough to be his mother? And all these things. And he came out and he was the happiest baby, the easiest baby to handle. He just became this thing that like brought life back into me, which is why we gave him the name he has, Luca, which literally means like witness or bringer of light. Like, there's so much darkness and uncertainty, and there's just this clarity of like joy and happy baby, and like life came back, and life's been coming back through him ever since. So
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for him. I'm so thankful. I think I also pressed into those questions because my duty as a mother is very clear as well.
Okay.
Just to do my best. I can't answer everything. His lot
Yes,
is his
yes.
lot. But from what I have learned, how can I guide him? How can I prepare him for what I know for sure is coming?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
questions will come in life. The doubt will come in life. And he's already going through some of those things. Comes and says, me, how comes the other kids in class can read the word very simply? And for me, it's difficult. And you have to teach him we're different and we can embrace those differences. And it's okay to embrace the
Learning at your
negative
pace.
emotions.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel sad about it, but you can't sit in that sadness. And then also just the ingenuity to like communicate that to him because I can't say it the way I've said it.
Yeah.
So I think there are also lessons I'm learning because we're going through the same things in life. I go through doubts and say, why is it easier for other artists to do this? Why is it easier for other women to do this? Why is it easier for other lawyers to do this? And why is it easier for other mothers as well to do
Yeah.
this? And in teaching him that lesson, I have to believe it and own it for him to also receive it. So I think it's so beautiful. And it's such a blessing, such a miracle.
It's a blessing, it's a miracle. And I think a lot of people don't realize that motherhood is another school of life for you.
Yes.
It is also another way to learn about yourself
So much.
as well. It's a journey.
Such a journey. It doesn't end. And I think I also see it through my own mother. Because I'm an adult and she's never stopped mothering me.
Yes.
You know, she's still my mom when I'm sad and he asks, why do you talk to grandma a lot? I'm like, because she's my mommy. Like when I have a question, I go to my mommy. So when I have a question, I should come to you as well. Like, yes, you can always talk to your mommy. You can always talk to your daddy. That's why we are your daddy and your mommy. And I'm like, yeah, like my parents are still alive. I'm so privileged to have a relationship with them even after all we've been through. How more can I use their life experiences to get through things?
Yeah.
And I think I have such a better relationship with them after having a child than before. I think there was this expectation of like, you need to be like the Nickelodeon parents, like the Disney parents who listen to everything. And now I'm just like, I really understand how difficult it is. I really understand how consuming the fears are. I really understand how it takes work to be patient.
Yes.
It takes discipline to, I need to work because I need to feed this kid. I need to, you know, he could get sick at any time. I need to wake up an hour
It
before.
centers you.
Yeah, it makes you a responsible adult. I'm like, I'm making breakfast for someone. He needs to feed. I need to iron these clothes. Does he have clean clothes? And I'm like, wow, I'm so responsible.
Well done, well
It's
done.
amazing. I just think everyone needs this sense of achievement also. So I love it for that. Yeah.
So, tell me about music. Well
Love how we're
done.
cracking ourselves up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What are
music.
you working on? Because you mentioned that you are struggling with what you have at the moment.
Yeah.
Where are we in this process? Where are we now?
I think it's this twofold process of like practicing what I preach.
Yeah.
I think one of my core messages is, as an artist, have the artistic integrity to be you. You don't know how important being you is because, you know, no one knows the future. No one knows why you're given the ability to make music the way you're able to make music. And in the big stories of like music, I'm so moved by the Beatles. There were these boys from Liverpool with their individual stories, and they all came together just because Elvis Presley decided to make music. And then you get into his story and how he learned what he learned and how it was difficult to gyrate those hips on TV. And but guys were like, you can really decide to express yourself if you want to. And John Lennon is like, wow, I want that ability to individuate the way I saw Elvis doing.
Yes.
And he says, okay, so if he has a freedom to do that, then I can write my own songs. Up to now, no one has more number ones than John Lennon, and he's been dead since the 70s.
Yes.
Is that incredible? And the Beatles forever are the biggest because of just how much they own their individuation. The guitar wasn't a very popular instrument, but it's what John Lennon had. So that there were like lessons of he could afford to go and learn. He taught himself the guitar just by playing records, and I'm like, okay, this is what. And he did that, and Paul McCartney just came on that, you know, shape, and they came up with stuff such that their biggest songs were from life. Hey Jude is one of my favorite, and it's a lullaby Paul McCartney used to sing to John
Oh
Lennon's
my
child.
goodness. I'm also thinking about the music that you draw inspiration from.
Yes. So when I think about those stories, and then I think about even just bringing it to Uganda and how Kadongo Kamu became Kadongo Kamu. I'm like, we are Africans, we are Baganda, we are Banyank, we tell stories. It's in our African culture to do that. But what instruments are we seeing around? How can we tell stories with a guitar? And you have Fred Masagazi. I love his music and I am looking for it all the time and I like those stories. And then you see Eli Wamala and then you see Bobby Wine. Like, I love Bobby Wine's music and okay, that might be very political. I'm still talking from a very artistic perspective, but I've been listening to this song of Singa Ndi Museveni. And he's just talking about how he likes a girl. And I was like, if I was Museveni, I would do all this for you if I had the money of studio. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this vibe is so immaculate. And then you move to like someone like Fik Fameka, who I also really love because of how he tells stories of like, I'm fresh and clean. I was born to win. Like, this is my story. And he's just,
I know.
talking about
it's
that.
amazing how music can also just cross borders because just last week my guest was talking about living in Mali.
Okay.
And, and then she was just saying that Eddie Kenzo is huge
That's
in
it.
West Africa, in the Francophone countries.
Wow.
Like in the club, every 2-3 songs they're playing his music.
Eddie Kenzo.
Even songs she didn't know about, and they know it word for word. And she was just like, how is it possible that Eddie Kenzo has been able to do this? And I was so fascinated by that. But
and I think
good music is good music,
good music
I always
is good
say.
music. Music with message will reach whoever is able to understand that message. And then
And sometimes you don't even know what the message is, but you feel it.
because it's also very spiritual, comes from emotion, and there's ways we convey that emotion. I think science calls it co-regulation. The way in your gut.
She's pulled out the big word.
This is my curiosity coming out. You know, like the way like in the movies when the bad guy is about to come, the horses start becoming restless. That's ability they have, or the birds start flying, or you're just like, there's something off about this person, or I just love this person's energy. We can communicate that through music. So scientifically, sometimes people think we evolved to be artistic and musical because we could convey emotions that bonded us more through music. Like if we're conveying confidence and strength and unity in a song, and we go towards singing that song,
Right.
mindset is going to be changed already. We're definitely going to conquer whoever we are fighting for food or for land.
Yeah.
So those are some of the
And
explanations.
also how music is such a integral part of culture as well.
Or like scientifically, we are the only ones who can keep rhythm and define pitch. There's no other animal that can do that. Maybe they respond to it in their ways, but we are born able to listen and comprehend music. So it's a very, very intentional, I think, thing given to us, whether from how we have adapted over time, but it's why it's very important. So I also loved Ugandan music more when I traveled because I went to the States to study production and, kind of grow in my songwriting. And I'd say, I'm from Uganda. And they'd be like, oh, what Ugandan artists do you recommend us to listen to? And I'd been in Uganda listening to Chris Brown. I'm like, yeah, I don't know who you should listen to in Uganda. Like, what's the biggest song in Uganda now? And I was like, I actually don't know the answers to this question because I've always just listened to English music. I don't speak Luganda very well, but I understand it. And then finding the African community there, they were more fascinated.
Where was this?
This is in Los Angeles, in the States. That's when I started listening to like A-Pass and Shiba. Shiba had a song called Ice Cream at that time. I remember just sitting down to understand ice cream. I'm like, this is such an interesting perspective and such an interesting way of like, what's ice cream stand for? Oh, this is what ice cream stands for. And
I just milkshake. Like Carrie, what?
And I'm like, I love Milkshake, for example, by Black Eyed Peas. I'm like, why do I appreciate their metaphor and their symbolism more than, I mean, Shiba's doing the exact same thing. And it's right here, it's in my own language. Like, yeah.
And
like,
I find that our music
on?
has really found its identity.
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, so when Eddie Kenzo is, sometimes Ugandan artists, unfortunately, are more appreciated outside the boundaries.
That is true.
And it's a great imperative on us as Ugandans to support and affirm our own Ugandans and artists and say, you sing in our language, you're coming from our culture, you're coming from our time. We appreciate the courage it's taking to do that. We appreciate the choice you've made to do that. And we appreciate the fact that you're creating an identity for us. Sometimes people are like, oh my goodness, we should make Nigerian music because Nigerian music is the thing right now. And yet I feel the secret is Nigerian music was just owned by Nigerians.
Yes.
In London, Nigerians love Burna Boy and whoever. And that love became this revolution globally. Wherever Nigerians were, Africans were maybe in those spaces, and then other Africans like that music. And then, you know.
And they will share it wherever they go.
Exactly.
We need to do that.
Because
what you're saying.
I don't know, but I really don't understand what Burna Boy is singing sometimes. Just saying on the low. But like the rest is, you need to look up the lyrics or understand them. Because he's singing it so Nigerian, like using his pidgin or using his actual, you know, like local languages. And then he talks about his influences, Fela Kuti. Like, I mean, we have like African artists like this to draw inspiration from. So I'm like, oh, that's the same thing that needs to happen here. We need to like own identity. Once we do that, as Ugandans, we own our music and our artistry as well. And then together we just like give our Ugandan artists this launch pad to kind of go everywhere else.
And appreciate the diversity of all our artists.
Yes.
Back to what you're working on.
You said I told you I talk a lot. So back to what I'm working on. I'm one of these artists that draws from life and experiences, because for me, writing has always been thinking about what I'm going through, what I'm learning. And lately, the past, I'd say 4 to 5 years have been very tumultuous for me. And there's been a lot of lessons in understanding why I got to where I got to, but then also the work it's taken to come out. For me, it feels like a very hero-like story. I love Lord of the Rings. I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings. It's one of those books I read as a child.
Yes.
And that story has stuck with me, and there's always this sense of duty the protagonist has. And I like thinking of all of us as having this mission in life. Crystal has a mission in life. I have a mission in life. And there's going to be things Izabel has to overcome to do what she's supposed to do. Like the things Frodo had to do to get the ring to Mordor. And like, I'm always singing about like some Lord of the Rings character. And always imagining I want to have like a fellowship around me. That way, like Frodo had these people helping him, or I need a Samwise, you know how Samwise just got him to the end. But I never ever thought of myself as like Frodo. Like you also have a mission. And so right now I'm working on an anthology, which is basically a collection of albums, because every protagonist's story is twofold. They're not perfect. That's why they're relatable.
Yes.
Because they have to overcome this thing somehow that is in their way. Maybe this overconfidence, maybe this, like Frodo's was his inability to be cautious with Smeagol. He just trusted Smeagol too much, and someone was like, this guy's going to do us a dirty. And eventually Smeagol did them the dirty, and they almost failed to, you know, achieve the mission. So I'm kind of drawing from that to create this story of myself. And I think
not one-dimensional.
I think in all my work, I have been in this young adult crisis, coming of age sort of theme. I think one of these, like Breakfast Club is a good example of that, or all these movies that have this doe-eyed innocent person suddenly losing their innocence and becoming this thing because of this life thing. I think with my past albums, because it's going to be my third album, my first album, Little Grown Up Child, was the shock of life. I'm like, oh my goodness, no one told us adulting was like this. What a mess. And then Love and Light was more of like, I think I found a pocket of like where to exist. Yes, there's the bad lows, but I think there's some growth, and I think there's some things to look forward to. There's some love and light. There's like some hope.
Yeah.
And now it's more of like, you can't look at life as always, oh, life sucks. You know, there's always growth. So yeah, I'm working on an anthology. One will kind of show the bad side, the necessity of the lows to have the highs. So you need to struggle to learn that, oh my goodness, I'm resilient. Oh my goodness, whatever comes at me, I need to get the job done. Like if I have this mission, proverbially throwing the ring into Mordor, I need to do whatever it takes, because there's people depending on me.
Yeah.
There's I owe it to myself. So I'm just going to be writing about some of those things, especially within the context of like failed relationships romantically, within the context of like self-doubt and learning that a lot of my mental struggles came from giving up on myself, just depressed to the point that I don't see myself worthy of doing anything or pulling anything off. And just the transparency to sit in that and be like, yes, I'm lacking in so many ways and I still must continue.
Yeah.
So the other side is more of a celebration, because I think I have learned still within that time that gratitude, and I think you see a lot of my posts, always full of gratitude, always full of praise.
Yeah.
There's something to be thankful for. And the only way to combat some of those negative emotions is to change your perspective.
True.
Yeah, Frodo was like, yes, this sucks, but I have Sam. Or like, there's
Yeah.
always something to be thankful for. There's always something to give thanks to God for and be full of
Yeah.
praise for.
And you can draw strength from.
And that's exactly the miracle that happens. You suddenly have the strength to go on. And before you know it, 1 week, 2 months, a year, oh my goodness, like this season has passed, or I've managed to overcome
Yeah.
this feeling or this struggle that I have, or I've managed to find a way to get through it despite.
I'm looking at you like, this is therapeutic for you.
Yeah. My music is music therapy sometimes.
But
So,
yeah.
so that's going to be the album. I'm telling that story. I share a lot of my life on Instagram, because I believe the artist and the human are the same. You know, like sometimes how people can create personas of like, there's Beyonce and then there's Beyonce Knowles Carter.
Yes.
For me, there's Izabel Twondere. You know, like if you look at Izabel Twondere's life, you will understand what Isabel UG is singing about.
All right.
Because that's where I drew it from. So I think from this, the people who follow that already understand like where the album is coming from. I've also been doing a lot of exploration of like negative emotions. Because my marriage ended. That was really like the highlight of the lows. And there were a lot of these negative emotions I felt for the first time. So much anger.
Yeah.
So much like isolation, so much loneliness. And I was like, am I allowed to sing about these things? Because you sing about sad things. I mean, Adele writes a breakup album. Yeah,
And
Beyonce
those are the
was
best
angry
songs.
in Lemonade and whatnot. But like, how do
But it's
Ugandans receive that?
relatable, though.
How do Ugandans receive that? Am I the angry, emotional female now? Always blaming the man? Like, isn't there this scenario of like a plank in my own eye and a speck in his? Is there like some self-auditing I need to do as I sing about this? Is it, what's the truth of this situation for me?
Yeah.
And so I think it's also been that journey of kind of finding the sounds that express those emotions, because the music's always very calm, and I'm just like, anger is not calm. So what kind of song are we
So how
producing?
am I going to literally like bottle it in?
So lately, some of the singles I've been releasing over, I guess, the past year and a half are part of the album, the message, but kind of just to like test out the reception, to also prepare the audience.
How is it being received so far?
I think every song is different, like, because I'm singing very vulnerably. It's also something I believe in. Like sometimes.
Are you sometimes afraid of the feedback?
yeah.
You're like, I don't want to know what people think.
So much, because I'm like, am I giving too much away? Like, are people going to judge me? You know, when I sing this stuff. I mean, there are people I judge as I listen to. You listen to Billie Eilish and you're like, but Billie. I think we need
Good
some
point.
more therapy, you know?
Good point.
But at the same time, because it is as transparent as it is, it's helpful. It's helpful to people. So I think for me, as I told you, I'm chasing that feeling. If I can't say the truth, I'm not going to find it.
Yeah. And you want you've made it very clear, you want your music to be a reflection of who you are.
Yes, I think that's the only way it's useful. So it's difficult. Like one of the first singles was a song called Like Me. And I drew from, the line, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And the play, it is drawn from the character was a queen that said it was really unrequited love. She loved this guy so much and this guy like betrayed her. And she was like, by the way, I'm so angry. Like even the fury of hell cannot compare to that. And I just sang that and now it's a joke. Like everyone's like, no one went through it like me. So has anyone gone through it like Isabel UG? And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, it's like this very sensitive thing because like no one went through it like me at the same time. Then the next single was one called Damaged. And I'm like, am I allowed to say that? Like, am I allowed to share that there was once a time I saw myself as so broken by what I went through, as so damaged from what I went through, that it was just helpful to push everyone away. It's like I feel like a grenade that's gonna burst on people. Like I'm in this journey of healing, but there's this time I need to take away because I need to do better. I need to be better. I'm so wounded and scarred, and there's this fear I have to connect with people again, and that's what the song was about. And I released it like so scared, like I'd get headaches from the anxiety. But the DMs I received, like, oh my goodness, this song is exactly where I am right now.
Yeah.
I had this failed relationship, and I feel like I'm too damaged for anyone to love me. I don't feel deserving of love. But like in it, I wrote about the therapy that I was doing, and like I just feel paralyzed, like I can't go on. And you're saying I can breathe as normally as you're breathing. Like breathing is something that's difficult. Like, dude, even breathing I can't do. Like, let's leave this. Like a car that will never run, right? Like, let me find my fellow broken people and we'll just be in a club. So
And let's just be together.
let's be together, because Then the next one was a story. Because I think something that's also happened as I've grown is I was very careful in how I sang about like sexuality.
Yes.
But I am a sexual being, like all humans are.
So that's also the background. Yeah.
Yes, and like, am I allowed to sing about that? Do people know me as this very careful, like she doesn't sing about that? But I'm like, there's very many ways to sing about that same subject and material and still embody your values as I did. So I was really just telling the story of how heart begets heart, like hurt people, and like this protagonist and antagonist, they were just hurt people finding themselves to like hurt themselves.
Yeah.
And like switching off themselves, like how sometimes we refuse vulnerability and like to be more aloof and pretend I don't care about you is like more
Yeah,
in
you
like,
don't want to be vulnerable.
yeah, like, oh goodness, vulnerability, what's that? Like commitment, what's that?
Nobody
Seriousness,
can
what's
touch me. Nobody
that?
can hurt me. No.
Yeah, it's basically just this play of like giving into, I guess, the armor of sexuality sometimes to hurt people, but also to avoid vulnerability. And yet, ironically, these people loved themselves for that sliver of individuation, like coming through. So the guy is singing about her still through this lens, but he loves her for how brilliant she is, or like her mind, which is why it's called As a Man, kind of playing on the antagonist who was a man who hurt her, but Bontwe, which means head in like some funny English we used to speak in primary school. So when that came out, guys were like,
Like, what's going on?
I think I need to put PG on some of these lyrics. But at the same time, it's something people have also been talking about, like something with this new culture of we want relationships with people, but I can't even tell you I like you or I enjoy spending time. Oh, that's too much.
Yes.
Oh, you're too
Yes,
needy.
yes. Play cool.
And yet we're hiding behind something so emotional, like sexuality of ourselves, and downplaying the effect. And then we wonder why we're unhappy or we're in therapy or, we have all these wounds. So that's just something I was also singing about. So the album is very heavy with material like that. But I think playing on the imperative to say it the way it is.
My goodness, the storyteller you are.
So that's the plank in my own eye.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, you're so emotionally unavailable. Yeah, but how did this relationship begin? I was also,
and that's also the tough thing, the accountability side of things, which is part of the healing.
Yes, yes, because you have to forgive yourself as well. You also have to say, I did some things wrong, because it takes two. And I need to forgive myself and I need to forgive them too. And to move on. So,
and you need to do that so next time you'll be better. You'll do better.
Yeah, but also like this music sessions like passing a stone, because I've been so stuck in these feelings. I'm like, can we just get these feelings out of the way and write about other things? So yeah, I'm looking forward to it being done. But also how I plan to share it, it's going to have to be very like this.
Okay.
Because I think so much will get lost in translation.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be missed. So that's also something to look out for. I think I want to be doing a few shows and just like singing and telling the story of these songs. I want to also continue with telling these stories with other people, because if you've noticed, all those, it's going to be a collaborative album.
Yes,
All those
yes,
songs
yes.
I've sung with someone else,
Yeah.
just to show myself and to show others. Like, I can feel the same way, and Ko and Jesse can come on this song, and I just need to tell him the story, and it's like, I have where to draw from in life to write the second verse to this. So that's kind of what I'm going for. But I'm really stuck with how to market it and how to communicate it. So I'm also trying to figure that out before I just, album, yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah, I think I need to put in work in making sure it reaches the people it needs to reach.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, we're going to look forward to that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to look forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, Izabel, I don't know how the time has gone by so quickly.
I overtalk.
Not at all.
Maybe that's how.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me,
It's been
Crystal.
such a pleasure.
Pleasure's been
And for
always.
sharing some of your struggles.
Yes.
No, because sometimes people will listen to some of the music and they don't necessarily pick up
Yeah.
on certain things.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. I always say, to be an artist, you are literally putting your heart out there and saying, here I am.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy thing.
No, it's
But
not.
it's a gift that needs to be shared. You have a gift that we need to enjoy.
Thank you for that affirmation.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you again.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.